Right, last time we finished off raiding this bandit camp and we have looted it. In all honesty, there isn't really that much here. We took their food, we took 20 arrows, and overall the treasure is just 126 silver pieces and 10 gold pieces. So let's look at where we are. And we're here, and it is approximately the middle of the day. We camped here overnight, and it took us about 10 o'clock to get to here. And then after the raid, cleaning up and looting, it's about midday. And I think it's appropriate that we try to get back to the keep this evening. We have been outside for 3 days, it will be. Let's see if we need any healing. Donard is going to cast one of his 2 Cure Light Wound spells on himself. And that does 4. He's from 11 to 15. Alright. So we move through the woods at a reasonable walking speed of 2 per turn. So that's 1 hour. So that's about 2 o'clock we get to here. And do we find any wandering monsters? We don't. And then 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we finally get off the hills into this sort of flatland area. Actually, reverse that. Right, let's go here and here, because we know we can ford the river here, so we're here. And there's nothing. So it's 4 o'clock. About 6 o'clock we get into the island. Nope. And then we're on to normal territory, which is a bit faster. So we're here and it's 8 in the evening. Nope. And then 9 and 10. It's 10 o'clock in the evening, and this, I'm going to say, is a safe area for the keep. There may be bandits on the road. I'll roll for wandering monsters, and if we do get them, then it will be bandits. Oh. No, it isn't bandits. So late in the evening, by about 10:30, 11 o'clock, we're back into the keep, and we go to the inn. Right, now we have had a retainer called Stu Rat, who's a thief, pretty good marksman. We will calculate what we owe him at the end of the day. We ask, does he want to come again? Do have other retainers to try and pick up, and we probably will pick them up and drop them off several times. But we ask him, does he want to spend another day with us? And he just says, no. Well, not at least for a few days. And we ask him, well, why? And he points a big stabbing finger at Malin and says, because of him. Malin obviously blushes, and everybody says, well, why? And this thief Stu Rat says, your mage there is out of control. You might be young, Sonny, but you need to be reined in. And everybody asks, well, why? What went wrong? And he said, that stunt you pulled with the spiders was well out of order. Those spiders, we could have just upped and left before they saw us, but no. You had to be all fancy and cast your spells. You managed to put one spider to sleep, but that other one, it walked off, and we were lucky. If that had attacked us, any one of us could be dead, including me, including your sister there, all of us. Do not do that again. Know your limitations, boyo. And he goes up to bed. He's in the common room, so everybody just looks at Malin. What do you say to that? Right, we're going to turn in for the evening, and we're going to pick up a different retainer tomorrow, and it will be the big lunk of a fighter called Kriss, with his big 2-handed sword and his crossbow. We meet Stu Rat in the morning in the inn by the, a check-in desk, and we pay him 99 gold pieces for his services rendered. That necklace that we got off the lizard man was worth a lot of money, and we sold it in one of the general stores, but they take a 50% whack, so the amount of cash that we had to share was much less than the XP. That's been the norm. Donard has gone off again for morning prayers. Even though we know we're going to take on a new retainer, Donard has really no negotiation skills and is quite happy to leave it to everyone else. He comes out and he sees this priest again with his 3 acolytes, and the priest says, "Oh, good morning, it's the young novice." And our level 3 Donard just says, actually, it's priest, okay? He walks off to meet the others, and this priest here says, well, maybe I'll meet you at breakfast. And Donard just thinks, yeah, right, spoil my appetite. We are going to go to the inn. We're going to see if we can pick up somebody else to help us. And it looks like we've missed quite a night of fun. The 2 men from Yelarim have gone. We have been away for 3 days. This is the morning of day 5. Day 1 was when we first arrived. 3 days in the wilderness. Here we are again. And some poor woman has got the job of cleaning up this mess. Ben looks over and he thinks it's Catty, the big red hair. He doesn't want to draw attention to himself. These boys are still drinking, eating and playing games. Their money's going to have to run out sometime. And we have got 3 of our retainers here. And we're going to pick up Kriss, who nominated himself as a retainer, described himself as a fighter with a sword, the bigger the better. And his personality is that he's a loyal, trusting person, faithful, naive but not gullible. And when you look at all the fighter classes available with the personalities, there is somebody who is described as kind and trusting, and these are his stats. Strength of 18, Constitution of 13, Wisdom 7, sounds actually quite appropriate, and the rest are average. That 18 strength is excellent. We haven't had a 2-handed sword user before. And when you look at the manuals, it says that you can't use a shield, and it also says that they lose initiative. We have group initiative. I don't know why that is there. There's nothing in the manual, at least the basic manual, that talks about individual initiative. And certainly in this edition of the game, there isn't such things as weapon speeds and spell casting speeds. So what I think I will do is that Kriss will always go last. So even if our group wins initiative, everyone here goes first, the enemies go second, and Kriss will always go last. And with his big sword, which is a 1d10, a very underused dice so far, he will be there to deliver those final killing blows. And we're going to have breakfast. We're going to have to buy a lot of rations and make our plans. So we'll let these guys eat their breakfast. We'll have our breakfast. It's good to eat here instead of paying for rations. And after we've eaten, we're going to send Ben over and he's going to negotiate with Big Kriss. And we're going to start off with a 40% offer of the treasure and share of things. And that is uncertain. Okay, he is naive, but no, he isn't gullible. I think word has gone round that the going price is 50%. And that's much more favourable. That's friendly. Yeah, he's up for that. And the usual terms and conditions. He won't do the dirty on us. He will lend his muscle. He's got a lot of muscle. But we don't expect him to take any flak. He'll be wearing plate mail, which is AC 3, no shield. And he has a crossbow for ranged. But really, that big sword of his is his favourite weapon. Where are we going to go to? When we were on top of this hill, we saw all the way up into this valley. Remember, this is only 2.3 miles wide. If you're on a hill, you can see for miles. So we can easily see this valley and the path leading up. And we're going to go to the Caves of Chaos. And when you look at this distance, and you look at it as in 3 squares for every 1 hour, and that is us taking it fairly cautiously, not the 1 square per hour if we're looking for trouble. Even then, it's going to take us a couple of days even maybe to get there. Maybe a couple of days to clean it out, rest in the wilderness, and come back again. So we're going to need at least a week's rations. We can buy those at the general store. It has all the usual basic adventuring equipment. I think I'll do a weather check when we actually set off. Just as a heads up, Caves of Chaos look like this. and I'm sure this was probably part of a cardboard sleeve in the classic blue ink. If you go online, you will see dozens of redrawn versions. This is an extremely famous module. I found this, it says Dyson Logos edition, don't know who they are, but this is nice and clear. I'll probably redraw this in such a way that I can mark over it. I'll see what it expands up into, and we'll describe the Caves of Chaos when we get there. At first glance it looks quite a mess, but there is a system to it. As we're eating our breakfast, the priest and his 3 acolytes come in. He goes, "Oh my goodness, Mrs. Wainwright, what a mess, what a mess, and on such a fine day as this." And then he looks over at Donna and says, "Oh, hello." He says to the other party members, "I hear your friend is a priest. That's quite an achievement. You must be adventurers." Everybody looks at Donard, because, yeah, this person is friendly but off-putting. Donard has no other explanation but, "Don't look at me. It's nothing to do with me." This priest says, "If you've ever gone to the Caves of Chaos, beware, they are filled with the most vile and treacherous of creatures. Such evil must be purged from the world. And if you need any extra help, I and my 3 companions here are more than willing to join you, and we won't ask for any help or any assistance. We can look after ourselves, and that offer is open to you." And Donard says, "Well, actually, we're going to try these caves ourselves. We're good." And the priest just says, "Oh, the enthusiasm of the youth." And he walks off and takes the seat, and him and his acolytes get their breakfast. And, well, the rest of the morning goes as planned, and so we might as well meet up outside the keep for our journey to the Caves of Chaos. We're outside the keep and we walk down this hill. I'm interpreting this part as an easy 300-yard stroll. It's well within the security of the keep. But however, once we get off the hill and onto the road to the Caves of Chaos, danger picks up. I have marked off every 300 yards. You have 2 walking speeds in open territory. You have a sort of cautious walking speed of 300 yards a turn. You have, by contrast, the usual 100 yards per turn if you are looking for trouble. It's an open road. If we find trouble, we find it. So we're going to go along here. I did count. It'll take roughly the guts of a day just to get here. And every second one is where we check for wandering monsters. And so we are here, and it's not long before we get a wandering monster. I'm going to interpret any in this vicinity as either hobgoblins or bandits, rather than something more exotic. Okay, so our first encounter is 7 orcs. Right, let's roll for surprise. And we surprise them. What are we going to do? Are we going to try and evade them? We can't. They're sort of on the path. We do have 2 sleep spells. So let's begin with magic. And let's see how many of these 7 orcs we can put to sleep. 4. Right, so let's roll for initiative. And they get initiative. And let's roll for their reaction. And that's an 11. That says possibly friendly, roll again. Okay, well maybe they've suddenly realised that we're forced to be reckoned with. They've put their hands up and says, "We want no trouble here." Hey. Right. Okay, we're going to make a deal. Although it's not really in our nature to deal with evil creatures. We can tell them to go away, shove off and leave people alone. Or else we can just go and fight. But we'll see what their second reaction is. That's it. They're friendly. They don't want any trouble. In fact, they might leave if we pay them some money. Right, that's their interpretation. We're going to say no. Have at thee. Okay, the fight is on. There's one melee and 2 archers left. The melee one misses Ben, and the 2 archers, one is on Ben, misses. The other one is on Donard, hits, does 3 damage. Okay, it's going to be like that, is it? Well, we did ask for it. Right. Let's do our own archers. We have got Sylvia, and she does 1 damage. She's going to pick off the archers. They have 6 HP each. We have Liz, and she cleans out that 1 archer. That's him gone. Then we have 3 melee guys. We've got Ben, who has a THAC0 of 16. That is therefore AC 5. Hits AC 6 and cleans out that 1 melee orc. We then have Donard, who misses, and finally, with this big 2-handed sword of his, we have Kriss, and he easily hits, and he does 7 damage, and he cleans out another of the melee orcs. Second round, let's roll for initiative, and it's mutual. Let's see what this orc does. Does his morale hold up? His morale does hold up. He fights on. Let's see what his reaction is. No, we don't get a second reaction. I'm getting too enthusiastic there. Right, let's do his turn. He was shooting at Donard, and he misses. Right, it's our go. Missile. Liz misses badly. Sylvia hits and cleans out the second archer. That means there are 3 sleeping orcs, and we know what happens next. It's a tale as old as time. They get their throats cut, and we might as well salvage what we can from them. We're here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is midday, and we're here for another wandering monster check. Whoops. We're fine. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. 3, 4 in the afternoon. And yep, something is looking to get dinner ready for this evening. What is it? Let's use the actual wandering monster table. Throw a 1d20. That's an 8, and that is either halflings if we're using level 1 or goblins if we're using level 2. I think we should be using level 2 since that's kind of appropriate for the party. Okay, 1 to 6 hobgoblins. There's 1. Let's roll for surprise. And we surprise it. What do we do? Well, let's pepper it with arrows. That's 3 HP. How many HP did it have? It has 7. So that was Sylvia, took 3 off it. And Liz takes off the final 6. That's a dead hobgoblin. Okay. It ain't gonna see this evening. One thing I did not do is I did not do a weather check. And when you look at the expert rules, even though it is about wilderness travel, there isn't a weather chart for you to roll from. So I did see in passing a minor comment in a forum, and somebody said, oh, that's a good idea, use the reaction chart for weather. So I'm going to do that. What has the weather been like so far? 6. That's possible attack roll again. That's possible rain. Yeah, it looks really heavy and overcast. 6 again, and that is rain. Yep, it started off possibly rainy and the rain has come down. It's 4 o'clock. I've hurried through this. I suppose I ought to have described beautiful rolling hills, lakes, birds flying, the sort of pastoral scene we expect. So the rain has started to come down, and 5, 6 o'clock will take us to there. And that's fine. And then 7, 8 in the evening will take us to here. And we're okay again. We're going to have to go much slower because we're coming up to these caves and we're looking for a campsite. So instead of going ahead at 3 squares per turn, we're going to do 1. So it's 9 o'clock and that's 10 o'clock. I'm going to camp in these foothills. And we don't get attacked. Right. Okay, well, we spend the night in these foothills, and that's one of our rations gone. Day 6 has passed, and we wake up in the morning to day 7. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock takes us back onto the road. 10 in the morning takes us to here. And the path is clear. And then we come to these bushes. I should have drawn them. And trees, and we can see here at 11 in the morning this valley cleft happening. These are wooded hills on either side, quite steep. There are paths up to them. On the ground level there are several cave entrances, and on the upper level there are several more cave entrances, and this is our first view of the Caves of Chaos. It's not heavily wooded here, it's quite barren, but there's enough small scrubland, trees and bushes that we can make our way cautiously across here to the first of the caves, because there is one that's closest. And this is, well, I've shown it before, Caves of Chaos. The first cave that you can see is this one, D, here on the ground level. E is beside it. Across the valley is A, and then at the far end is G, and then there are several others, F and H and B, which are higher up, and you must have to climb up the hills along a path to get there. We're going to try this one, D, and let's see what's inside it. I've redrawn it like this with some scrappy notes on it for my own benefit, so I can just scratch away on this. Let's look into the cave entrance. We did hear a rumour somewhere there is a magic user that will kill everybody, and we also did hear that the cave entrances are trapped. Find traps is 20, and she fails to find any. Ben's going to have to use his quarterstaff, which he does carry to help him, maybe as a walking stick, but he says it's for useful things like this. And so he taps all the way around the entrance, including into the entrance a bit, and if there are traps, then they seem to have either been sprung or they're not set. It turns out there aren't traps. That was a false rumour. It doesn't take long before darkness comes in, and this is where Malin takes out his lantern, fills it with a flask of oil, and he is in heaven. Just to give you a little DM background, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's just 5 areas of this cave which have been annotated in the text, and a lot of travelling between them. However, this cave is plagued with wandering monsters, and every 3 squares you move, you have to throw a 6-sided dice, and on a roll of 1 to 3, you come across a patrol. That is probably going to bump up the number of enemies in this cave. It's not at the face value that difficult, but once you include all the patrols that you come across, especially in this long corridor, the wandering monsters are probably going to double or at least treble the number of enemies. Do we go west, south, or east? Let's take a vote. 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. Right, and apart from Malin, who thinks west is the good idea, everybody else adamantly thinks this is the best way. And we will discover what's there next time.